Good morning. I am Kevin Price. Delighted to be with you. Going to spend some time talking to you about you and your business. Going to spend some time with Matthew Corrigan. He's a professor of, I believe, political science. Isn't that correct, Dr. Corrigan?
Yes, Kevin.
Yeah, and the University of Northern Florida. And the author of a book, Conservative Hurricane, How Jeb Bush Remade Florida. And it's an interesting book. It's kind of, I will confess, I only got it about 4 days ago, and really haven't had a chance to complete it. Kind of try to get a good panoramic feel of it. But it's an interesting book. It almost feels like you have a love-hate relationship with Governor.
Well, what I thought was interesting, and remember, he was governor from 1999 to 2007, which is a long time in American politics ago. But what I thought was interesting and why I wanted to do the book is I'd written another book on the Clinton and Bushes and the presidency, and my concern that the presidency was turning into a family operation. And so that's where I first really studied Jeb Bush a little bit because he was a potential candidate back then. But what I found interesting about him versus what's been going on in Washington is as far as governor, he came in, he really put together an agenda, he got it passed, and he implemented it. And so we don't see that in politics that much anymore. So I just thought it was an important time to examine that. And so, but I do give him mixed reviews. I give him good reviews for his leadership on getting all this passed. I give him some mixed reviews on some of the impacts of the policy.
Yeah, and more accurately, I guess you respect him in a Machiavellian sort of way.
Okay, I don't know if I'd go that far, but yeah, I mean, when he was Florida's governor, he was in charge, and so some of this national media coverage of him now as this moderate who is, very calm and very good with reporters, that wasn't the Jeb Bush that we had in Florida from 1999 to 2007.
Yeah. Well, I honestly believe when it comes to the media and conservatives, there's a whole lot of Lucy and Charlie Brown and footballs going on, to be honest with you. The media setting up someone as a superstar to help them get through the primary process to lead to massive disappointment afterward. Mitt Romney is a good example. Shockingly, it sounds like Lucy's going to try to get that football out there again for a third time, and they're giving credible credence to the possibility of why a third-time attempt by Mitt Romney could be good for Republicans. It's shocking to me, and shocking more so that people could buy into that. I'm not sure of his personality as such that people have wondered about his moderation, and I actually, just for disclaimer's sake, did political consulting for him for his first attempt to run for governor of Florida before he won. I believe it was the one election before he actually won. And I will say that of the Bushes, he is without question the most conservative of the Bushes. I gathered that when I was involved in doing research consulting for him. But I think where people are concerned on the rank and file conservatives, it's not his temperament. We certainly would love to see a feisty candidate. I think that was about the only attraction that Chris Christie had to conservatives, was that he was feisty. I like to call him the grumpy, frumpier version of Mitt Romney, though, when it comes to policy. There's not a whole lot of difference there. I think there was a lot of concern that there's not going to be a whole lot of difference with Jeb Bush. Jeb Bush seems very pro-amnesty. Jeb Bush seems to be a big government conservative overall. How does he differ from that in your experience?
Well, in terms of the immigration, it's going to be an interesting test of our political system, our media system, because he has a very detailed proposal. And again, I'm not a spokesperson. I'm just telling you how they're responding to this. That he believes that his proposal goes way beyond the word amnesty, that it's a common sense proposal that helps the economics of the country. Now, whether that's going to, get beyond the word amnesty that you just said is going to be a real interesting test of our political system. He's got the same issue with his educational reforms. When his educational reforms in Florida he didn't get much criticism from the right. He got criticism from the left because, yes, there was lots of testing, which now is known as the Common Core, but that testing triggered a lot of school choice options, which is more of a Milton Friedman type approach. And so the criticism he got on education while he was governor was really from the left. And so this new criticism from the right is really interesting on this educational proposal. But I think both of them have the same thing in common, Kevin, that when you are trying to deal with a complicated policy issue, do we have the time and space in our politics to really explain that? And he's really gonna test that proposition.
Interesting. In some ways, you get the sense that he is almost like Obama in the way he executes things. Very disinterested in what a legislative branch would have to say. He just wants to get things done. Is he a conservative answer to Barack Obama in terms of approach?
Well, from his time in Florida, he ran the show. There's no question about that. He came in with a Republican legislature, so we had a Republican unified government in our state for the first time since Reconstruction after the Civil War. And he ran the show, and as you probably recall, a lot of southern states, and I know Florida does not consider southern states sometimes, but we have a southern political history that we had a weak governor really model since the Civil War because Southerners didn't like executive power after the Civil War. And really, Bush came in and changed that, and really was probably the most powerful governor in our history. And so with that, he was able to get his agenda passed. So, I think he'd be a very activist president. Now, I think you can be an activist conservative, but he'll be activist. There's no question about that.
Okay. What do you think about him in terms of a viable candidate? I mean, I personally can't stomach the thought of a Bush Clinton race. I mean, honestly, and I never, when I talk to you, seems to feel the same thing, because I'm not convinced that Clinton's going to be able to get the nomination, to be honest with you. It seems like the new Democratic formula is minority and really thin resume. And although she's a woman, which is institutionally recognized as a minority, there's more women than men out there. I almost think a Cory Booker is the dream candidate for the next election cycle. But what do you think about his chances of getting the nomination and winning at that?
Yeah, I think, Mitt Romney actually probably did him a favor. He's the only person on earth who can make a third Bush look like a new entity. So with Romney coming on the scene, it may have actually helped Bush out a little bit. He can be in it for the long run on the nomination side because he's going to be able to raise the money. And probably a lot of these guys are. And so he may not do that great in Iowa or even New Hampshire, but he should do okay in the southern primaries. And that's going to be his key. If he can, he can obviously has to win Florida and some of the other southern primaries. And then, so I think he's got a chance. I do think both this immigration, and I'm finding the Common Core issue to be a real hot button issue around the country when I talk to people. And so, he's got a lot of explaining to do, but I think the way he's going to respond to that is really go back to what's in my book, not necessarily my book, but the agenda that I portrayed in there, and talk about his time as governor. He's a very conservative governor. Let me give you a couple of quick examples just on the social and cultural front. He was very strong on gun rights, limited a lot of restrictions, called himself the most pro-life governor in modern times on the abortion issue. Remember, there's the Terry Schiavo case with the woman who was near the end of life, and he intervened in that case. And he also started a faith-based prison. So, again, I think there's a lot in his background that he can talk to that can appeal to conservatives. But the key question is, will they even get to that part, or will they just hear education, Common Core, and amnesty?
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. What website would you like us to refer to?
You can. It's on Amazon, Conservative Hurricane, and my last name's Corrigan, and I've also got a website, Matthew Corrigan, 2 T's. That's all one word, .net.
Yeah, I tell you right now, if I were Bush, I'd be promoting your book because you almost posture him in a heroic sort of way for a guy whose reputation as a moderate doesn't help him in the primaries. So, even though it's often critical, he's got to love the title. Thanks so much, Dr. Corrigan. Appreciate it.
I appreciate spending some time with you.
When we come back, much more for you. I do want to remind you, best content here shows up over there at usdatareview.com, and this is The Price of Business.